Good evening, welcome to Politically Incorrect. Let me tell you who is here today. Actress, artist, author, and her Jane Seymour signature collection, Making News. It's available through crossingpoint.com. Jane Seymour, one of my favorites here. Michael Olowokandi. Did I say that right?
That's correct.
I hope so. You are, of course, former #1 draft pick, center for the Los Angeles Clippers, who are killing the Nets in the playoffs.
I'm the Lakers.
Oh, that's the Lakers. I'm sorry.
Funny guy.
Debbie Schlussel, been with us many times. Glad you made one more appearance here. Sports attorney, columnist for PoliticalUSA.com, and of course, Penn, Jillette, one of my first guests ever back in New York on that little studio on 23rd Street, the talkative half of Penn and Teller. They'll be at the Rio. I was just there, a fabulous place. They treated me great in Las Vegas beginning June 14th. Give a hand to our panel. Let me just say, before we start with the issue, people have asked me, what are you going to do after this show ends? Which, by the way, the last show is June 28th, if you don't know that, the last Friday of this month. So I'm not going to tell you. First of all, I'm going to take a long vacation. But I have a website now. Yes, and I had to get this because it's the only way. No, it's called BillMaher.tv. And it's under construction. I don't know even know what that means, why they can't in the electronic age, but you can log on. Apparently we're building it with logs on my link to my message board, and I will periodically check that, and I'm getting linked up because now I have to, that I'm away from my nipple. Okay, now, let's talk about what happened in the war on terrorism today. Some good news finally. Ashcroft said that they arrested a guy May 8th named Abdullah al-Mujar, who was building a dirty bomb, which in Ashcroft's world is a bomb with its breasts exposed, I would assume. The interesting thing about this, I think, is that he really is Abdullah al-Mujar Jose Padilla. He is of Puerto Rican descent. Remember when they used to just drive dirty bombs? I kid, of course. But I have two questions. The first is, we always hear this is not about religion. Okay, so how come a guy who before was just busting caps in people's asses because he was a gang member in Chicago suddenly gets Islam and now he wants to obliterate the nation's capital with a nuclear war? But it's not about religion? Please, fight with me on that.
Well, that's why they have this organization, Catholic Jihad and Jewish Jihad, but no Islamic Jihad that blows up people in Israel. I mean, it's Islamic Jihad. You don't have any other organizations that are forwarding this jihad, this violent struggle, for any other religion. It is about Islam, which...
Oh, no, I think actually back to differ. I mean, back in England, I lived in London for a few years, and you had the IRA, and they carried out bombing campaigns in London. They were Catholics.
That's the Muslim IRA.
They were
funded by Americans.
Funded by Americans, and back then it was okay. It was
wait a second. The IRA had a very specific agenda, which was exactly who was oppressing them in their backyard, and it wasn't with nuclear weapons.
Well, it was all about occupation, and back then it was only called resistance. And then now it's all about the religion. I don't think religion has anything to do with it. I think people will always have their cause.
Well,
it's nothing but religion.
Well, I mean, I think the point is that the guy was in prison, and prison, we know, is a great place to learn how to do better crime, and what they're learning now is they're learning about religion.
Another thing is, with the IRA, I mean, the Irish were, back in Northern Ireland and probably Ireland, which was predominantly the IRA, they were Catholics. They were people like us. I mean, they were Christians, and so as long as we had something common with them, there wasn't a problem with that. And then now, because we're talking about Muslims who are fighting for a cause, and I was
never for the IRA, and I never had anything in common with them.
I was never a Christian.
Right. So I'm not saying the methods.
Neither was I.
I'm not saying the methods are correct, but I think the fact that there are something other than what we are.
There are struggles going on all over the...
Now we see it as us versus them.
Did the IRA talk about getting rid of the infidels from the world? First the Jews from the Middle East, and then the infidels in the West?
They killed millions of innocent children and women.
That's true.
Who did?
But
the Irish did. The IRA did.
I don't know if it was millions.
The Irish killed millions of innocent...
Not millions.
You're talking to an Irishman right over here.
Not millions. Not millions.
Not millions.
Not millions, but they did kill innocent kids and women.
Okay.
They did that.
And continue to do so.
He meant dozens.
Yeah,
same thing. Not dozens, millions, same
definitely
thing.
Definitely not dozens.
It's a few orders of magnitude among friends.
In retaliation for centuries of British oppression.
But they still killed. It's about the method. I think everybody has a cause. It's about the most important thing is how do you sort of, what's the method you use in trying to convey your message?
I don't know.
You shouldn't kill innocent people.
No, you shouldn't. But you know what?
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't kill innocent
Bill,
people.
I think one of the things...
I'm down with that, sure. Why not? Don't kill innocent people.
Every time it comes up with the Muslims, if people mention Tim McVeigh, the IRA, you know, you can go on with these red herrings until you're blue in the face, but they're going to blow us all up in the meantime. If you want to pretend that this is not a unique situation, fine. But you know what? We're all going to pay for it, because this is a unique situation. The IRA didn't bring their over here,
But Bill, in all honesty, though, I think a big reason why the government, the U.S. government, is saying that it's not about religion is because we're not trying to get the other Arab nations sort of mad at us. You don't want to get Egypt against you.
That's true.
They're already against you.
You don't want to get Syria
and they are
against
against
you.
us. Bill, I think one thing that is very interesting, you know, Jane referred to the prisons and how this Jose Padilla converted to Islam at the prison, same place Mike Tyson converted to Islam. And the thing is that the organization that had the contract with the U.S. government to train the chaplains for the prison and military system was this thing called the Graduate School of Islamic Social Sciences. It was one of the organizations that was raided in Northern Virginia in March under Operation Green Quest. And Customs, under the warrant, said that the money they were getting from the Saudis, they were laundering $1.7 billion to the Isle of Man to fund terrorism. And this is the organization that is training the chaplains in the prisons and in our military.
Yeah,
and
didn't he have a Muslim chaplain in the prison, this guy?
But in response to that, I think it's very necessary to separate sort of extremist groups from the main religion.
But everybody that does this stuff
has been hijacked by extremists, and majority of the Islamic world is extremist.
They're
That's why
hardcore
Osama bin
religious
Laden
people.
is a hero. You don't see IRA posters in every Catholic kid in the United States room, but you see Osama bin Laden posters all over the Arab world. Even in Nigeria, you see them on the back of people's minivans. This was on PBS on Frontline.
Yes.
I wasn't aware of that.
It's tragic that such a good and honorable religion as the Muslim religion can be hijacked this way. And it's tragic that our prisons, which is a place which is supposed to stop people, to deter crime, is a place where we're breeding it.
Right. And Bill, one other thing, you know, even though I'm a Republican, President Bush has done a bad job of promoting moderate Muslims. He has shut out all of the moderate Muslims in this country from the White House.
And moderate Muslims have done a real bad job of promoting themselves.
Well, that's because they're being shut out. There's a guy named Sheikh Kabani who risked his life in 1999. He's the head of the Sufi tribe of Islam, which is a peaceful, mystical tribe. He risked his life in 1999 to go to the State Department and say there is a terrorist threat within Islam in the United States, that 80% of the mosques are controlled by radicals. You know what happened? The FBI told him, hey, time to hire a bodyguard. Now your life is in danger. And President Bush never invited him to the White House when he gave these Islamist peace speeches. Instead, he invited all these other groups.
Well, that's because your boyfriend, President Bush.
He's not my boyfriend. I'm being critical here.
I know, but the reason why he doesn't do that is because when trouble happens in the Middle East, he might speak out as he did for Israel for a little bit, but then he gets that knock on the door from the guy from Chevron who says, you know what, my friend who we do business with, we get the oil from, Abdullah, he says, could you really, the talk about Israel, it's hurting our business together.
Yeah, you know, that is part of it, but I think whenever you do have a problem, the first thing you have to do is sort of have damage control. And I think that's what the president's trying to do, but not waging a war against Islam, because you will include countries that have signed peaceful accords with the United States. King Hussein of Jordan.
What peaceful accord did he sign with
King Hussein of Jordan did. He was a Muslim.
He signed it with Israel now.
And he was a good ally with the United States. I mean, you do need to have countries that are of Islamic backgrounds who are working with us. That is very important, I think.
When people over 7 years old have imaginary friends, there's going to be trouble. It doesn't matter who their imaginary friend is. If they go to prison and they follow the Abrahamic religions, they're going to be killing somebody. It's just a really dangerous thing to have people believe in things that they can't prove.
I see what you're saying.
The idea
is not about President Bush.
Oh, well, you know, these people that say, I am doing this on faith, whether that faith is, no matter what that faith is, when it's not based on love of people and humanity, there's going to be trouble. And if you want to make airplanes safe, just make everyone that gets on the airplane eat some bacon and touch a penis, and everything gets solved. You won't have any nuts on there.
All right.
Just do that. Touch a penis, eat some bacon.
Well, convicted mob boss John Gotti has died in prison of cancer. And out of habit, this is weird, his attorney said they would appeal. Well, London newspapers are reporting that Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones is going to be knighted. Wow. Keith Richards, of course, has already been knighted and is known in England as cirrhosis of the liver. All right. So now let's leave the religion part of this discussion up for a second. Because I know we're... No, sit down. You know I'm more on your side.
I know you are, and I love you for that.
Not going to solve this. But I do want to talk about, you brought up a great point about the prison, because I think this should be a wake-up call. They keep saying about the FBI and the CIA and finding out about terrorists, we have to connect the dots. And yes, law enforcement has to connect dots in the more immediate area. But let's look long range. This looks like a good place to connect dots long range. We have more people in prison in this country than any other place in the world.
And it's not working, is it?
Well, it's creating people who hate America. So it's easy for a politician to win election by being more anti-crime than his opponent. You can always win an election by setting up some phony crime issue, and then when your opponent doesn't sign on, you have a 30-second attack ad that says, my opponent is soft on crime because he doesn't want to kill everyone. So voters go for that. People wind up in jail, many of them who don't really belong there, and they become hateful people. And you mix in the hatred of America with the religious element. I'm sorry, but you do find that in prison. And what do you have? We're turning out, I don't know how many Jose Padillos are in prison right now waiting to come out, but I think if you could take a nonviolent person and make them violent, you can certainly take violent people and make them terrorists.
Well, I know you've done this a zillion times on this show, the drug issue, but it really comes down to that.
It does.
If you don't have people in prison for crimes that don't have victims, you have time to spend a little more attention on the people that really are bad.
Right.
This guy really was bad. He was killing people.
Yes, this guy was.
So we spend some time on him. But the fact that you have, you know, whatever the numbers are, they're sickening. People are in prison for, you know, marijuana or even cocaine or something. You let them go, and we have plenty of staff to take care of the other ones. We can watch them and watch them closely. And no one's going to argue that he should have been in prison. I don't think there's even a nut like me that would say that this guy shouldn't have been in prison to begin with. But he should not have been in prison where there's so overcrowded and everybody's in prison for things that aren't even crimes.
But prisons have always been breeding grounds. Prisons have always been universities.
So
people go to prison, learn how to do, you know, their crimes even better, and they sort of accumulate a few more you know, techniques, and that's what's happening here. It's basically another form of gang, isn't it?
It is, right.
It's another gang.
But if it's always been that way, what do you do about it?
Well, you could make prisons not this brutal feeding ground that it is. You could somehow try to make a prison a place where somebody doesn't come out and want nothing but to revenge the country that put him in there.
What's that somehow, I think, is the whole issue. How do you make it better?
Maybe there has to be different forms of...
I would just put fewer people in.
Fewer people is a good start, yes.
Well, I really don't think there's a real solution to that. I mean, as long as people do commit crimes, they will be sent to prison, and there will always be that feeling of, you know, being oppressed and, you know, sort of my right or, you know, my right to fight against the establishment. That is always going to happen.
You don't think there's a difference between sending people to prison who know they really don't belong there, and when they get there, yes, maybe they have to serve time, but they don't have to be raped while they're there? There's not a difference there? I think there is.
Yeah, but Bill, I think if the people who sent them to prison beforehand knew they didn't belong there, I don't think they'd send them there. I think it is a situation where
you gotta be kidding.
I think it's a situation where they really do believe these people have committed crimes and do need to be sent to prison.
You think everyone in prison in America? How thin is the air up there?
I don't think. No, hold on. I'm not saying everybody in prison belongs in prison. What I'm saying is accidents do happen. I mean, things do happen which are not right. Okay, people will be in a situation where, you know, they were wrongly convicted, but then when they do come out, then that issue needs to be addressed.
But this guy wasn't wrongly convicted.
Yeah, I don't think people are sent to prison knowing that they were innocent.
No,
it's not something that's done intentional. That's the point I'm trying to make.
You got to be.
Bill, you're referring to the drug laws, right?
That's just that's a big part of it.
I mean, they are the laws, though. Don't you think you should be working to change the laws rather than saying that people who break the law are really innocent when they broke the law?
Well, yeah, of course we're saying that. Yes, we should change those laws.
And they really weren't innocent if they broke the law.
Of course they were innocent. It's the law that's guilty.
Well, then you need to change the law.
Exactly. Of course. What do you think? I'm planning to back a mule up to the county jail and knock out the wall and break them out that way?
Saying they're innocent and they
are innocent
until the law is changed, they're not really.
What a lawyerly thing to say. That's the way a lawyer looks at it.
I am a lawyer.
Not right or wrong, innocent or guilty, moral or immoral, but just what happens according to the letter of the law, which has nothing to do with
Well, then, Bill, if you're saying those people are innocent, then what other people are innocent? Maybe a murderer can say, well, yeah, that's on the books too, but hey, I'm innocent. Or somebody else can say, well, you know, usury, that's on the books too, but hey, I'm innocent. Or money laundering, that's on the books too. Tax evasion. But hey, I'm innocent.
There are some things that have been illegal that has been overturned. The things that become illegal for once are not illegal forever. You can drive on Sunday. You can buy, you know, liquor in certain stores on Sunday. Laws do change, and this is just insane that we're putting people in prison who've hurt no one.
Right, and poverty certainly has a lot to do with who goes to jail and who doesn't go to jail. It was in the paper last week again. The income gap continuing to widen. People don't see, I think, the connection between that and people going to prison, between that and an underclass of people who are becoming hateful about this country, who are living in this country. And when they fall in with the other people in the world who hate us, that's a lot of hate.
Michael Milken went to prison. Alfred Taubman, another billionaire, was just sentenced to time in prison. Wealthy people go to jail too.
Wealthy people go to jail too. That's right, Debbie. Wealthy people in almost comparative numbers.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point.
But also wealthy people
go to prison.
Possibly commit fewer.
Tim McVeighs are terrorists. There's always a red herring that'll screw up the real argument to solve the problem.
If everybody agreed with you that all of these people were innocent, then everybody would vote for congressmen that wanted to change the drug laws. But nobody is voting for those people. So you're in the minority. Most people think these people are not innocent.
And I hope to stay in it. We have to take a break. We'll be right back. All right, Penn just handed me this. This is the Bill of Rights printed on a little piece of metal.
Yeah.
Paul Provenza gave me this also, and you're saying this is, you put this when you go through the airport metal detector, so they purposely take it out, and then you say, please take away my Bill of Rights.
Right. They warned you, and they
because it's
that. And it's securityedition.com. Securityedition.com. You buy like 5 of those. When you go through, they warned you. They say, do you have any metal? What is this? You pull it out and go, it's my Bill of Rights. I guess you better take it.
Okay.
It's just a thought experiment.
See, I don't agree with this, I have to tell you, because we were saying the same thing in the break.
Very happy for somebody to search, because I don't want, like the guy who just came through, you know,
he wasn't caught by being searched. That didn't happen.
Well, you know, so I
give an example where that actually happened.
Well, you know, I don't mind having my tweezers taken away, but for some reason I am always.
Did they catch you as a terrorist for
I am always the random guy.
Thank you.
I am Miss Random every time.
I was saying this on the show Friday night. I did a whole speech about celebrity profiling, and I would be happy to do it if I thought it helped the problem. You get it too, celebrity profiling?
Well, yes, I actually had a person...
They're such idiots. They want to bend over backwards to prove that it's random, which is stupid.
So this just reminds you of what you're giving up. And maybe you want to give it up. If you want to give up the Fourth Amendment, go ahead. But it reminds you.
Right now we're giving up everything right now because of what's happening in the world. The world is completely out of control. We have people who believe it's better to be dead and go to some form of heaven and to kill a lot of people at the same time than it is to live.
They're not going to go to some form of heaven. They're just going to be dead.
Whatever it is they believe.
And the fact that you think that they're going to go to some form of heaven,
people don't value life now. People don't value.
But people also need to value freedom. And there is a line.
You know what,
it's wherever you draw the line.
Making you go to the airport.
No, they aren't. But the freedom to move freely within your country.
But we have to deter these people from trying to bring stuff on.
It's the same freedom that the terrorists took advantage of.
No, it's not the same freedom. That terrorist attack would not have been stopped.
It is.
It would not have been stopped by this.
How can you be so clear-headed about religion, but you don't understand that you have to give up to get certain things? There can be no absolute freedom.
How much are you going to give up? Where are you going to go?
To be searced at the airport? Yes.
Okay. And if it goes to strip search,
I've had a wand put over my nuts so many times I can't have children now.
Right. But are you okay? You're fine.
Of course I'm okay with that.
You're making that decision, that's fine.
Then you can remember that, but I want my life to be saved.
So how much are you willing to give up for that?
I'm willing to give up being searched.
Every time
I have been searched. People felt up my breasts. I don't care because I want to save
crazy people.
I am willing to be strip searched.
You are.
In order to save
and then how
hundreds
far
of lives on an airplane. I think that's
we got to take a break.
It just depends how long you want to go.
All right, the switchboard has been lighting up during the show. Not about the terrorism stuff. They can't believe I have a website. I do. BillMaher.point.tv, but you have to have a computer.